Welcome to the Inspiring Humans podcast. We are so happy to have you listening. My name is Stephanie Woollard, and this podcast is a platform to showcase the incredible human spirit. On this podcast, I'll be interviewing people from all over the world and all walks of life who will be sharing with us their personal dreams and their dreams for the future. I believe that through coming together and creating community, incredible things are possible. In fact, anything is possible. And I hope that this podcast is a launch pad for creating the new world that we want to see, that will have humanity free, thriving, and living in their full self-expression. So it's my great pleasure, and I've been super excited to have this chat with Sue Lees, who was a careers counsellor at my high school, Ivanhoe Girls Grammar, when I was back studying in high school. And Sue has been a great enabler for myself and 7 Women to make that partnership with my old school, Ivanhoe Girls Grammar, along with many others. But Sue really put 7 Women on the map and created that partnership initially. So I'm ever grateful to Sue, and Sue's had an long-term interest in Nepal as well, and been doing work over there, and been to 7 Women on the ground in Nepal, been to our first centre, which, you know, that was years ago now, I think about 16, 17 years ago, where, you've seen the operation since the very beginning. So Sue, I'd love to kind of capture your journey in this interview as well, and the amazing things that you've been able to do over in Nepal. But firstly, welcome on the podcast.
Thank you, Steph. It's great to be here with you.
Amazing. So we were just having a chat about your passion, you know, how you first came to be passionate about Nepal and how you used your role to be instrumental in enabling people to make a difference through their career, I suppose, and your advice in that role. So I'll hand over to you to, you know, give a bit of a background on you and what you do.
So I knew Steph from the time that you were a student at Ivanhoe Girls Grammar School, and you went on to study development studies at La Trobe University. And so you've always had that concept of supporting people in developing countries. And there's a lot of girls at Ivanhoe Girls Grammar who have gone on to do some sort of human rights type work. And I have to say, as a teacher, not every school does that. Not every school has that culture that says that I have opportunities in this world and abilities, and I want to use my abilities and opportunities to actually help other people. And it can be in so many different ways. For you, you've chosen Nepal, and that's been a wonderful thing for the people that you're associated with. But other girls have gone on to be human rights lawyers, have gone on to support their individual communities in many ways with community service. They've gone on to professional roles where they've used their skills to help people in the long term. So coming from that environment as a careers counsellor, I very much have always wanted to see people make the most of their abilities. I know what the girls from Ivanhoe Girls and other students from other schools can offer to the world, but I also know that other people in other parts of the world have a lot to offer too, and often they don't have the opportunities. They have the abilities if they're given the opportunities. So people like you go and you give them the opportunity and they run with that opportunity. And I think that's one of the very special things about Nepal. And I also do some work in East Timor, and I would say, yes, that is similar there, but perhaps even more pronounced in Nepal, that if you give people a little bit of help, they run with it. They really do make the most of what they can with their resources. So for you, you've been involved in 7 Women, and I've seen that from the start, where you've really built up this small group of women and literally given them the confidence to tackle their problems and other people's problems as well. And I mean, 7 Women supports a huge range of other people in Nepal, families and that now. And I believe at the moment you're cooking meals and that for people with COVID and that. So your support has magnified so many thousands of times. And I think we often talk about money when we're talking about work in developing countries, but actually it's not just about money. You can't really just define it by economics. There is very much that social factor too, and that social factor contributes to the economic factor. So then one of my other reasons we were just talking about for being involved in Nepal is basically because I believe very much in women. So I believe, I mean, the girls I've seen go through Ivanhoe Girls and other girls I've taught at different schools, incredible, you are all incredible pieces of humanity. I have so much admiration for all of you. And I think watching you all go out into the world and doing great things has been very special for me to be able to do. But I also believe that women have to help women. So we sort of need to send you women out into the world to do things. Look, there's brilliant men around, and I'm really pleased to see these days that I think men are much more understanding and supportive of many women, but there's still a lot of problems there. But I do think that in the end, it is women who will make a huge difference to the problems of the world. And it's, yeah, getting women in parliament. Obviously, I'd love to see more of things like that. But it's also getting more ordinary women to have power in their lives, because we know that ordinary women with power in their lives make good decisions. They make decisions to help other people. They make decisions to help their family. And ultimately, they make decisions to help their community and the world.
I love your passion for, as you mentioned before, equal opportunity. I think that's what it's about, just giving everyone equal opportunity, from men to women to, you know, people in Nepal that you've dedicated a lot of your life to, in the East Timor. It's about, I think you're really a stand for equal opportunity. And it's, you know, people kind of ask the vision and mission of Seven Women, and yes, it's helping women in Nepal who are marginalised and disabled, but the real kind of the big vision is just enabling people to reach their full potential, because we all have that incredible potential in us, and sometimes it just takes, you know, a resource or someone to kind of see it in us to help draw that out, despite some of the challenging, you know, like Sue, I'm sure you've seen, and I've seen many of the challenges that stand in the way of women reaching their full potential in Nepal. So that kind of fire in our belly for social justice, and just, you know, enabling when we see injustice, if we can do something to actually, you know, just take the first step. So yeah, I love the way you kind of explain it as equal opportunity, and also, you know, as well as economic support, social as well. And that's something that really intrigued me, and it's something that I focused my thesis on in my master's in Sweden in peace and conflict research, because I wanted to understand how much does the economic independence and freedom play in the empowerment of women, and how much of it is the social empowerment when they meet like-minded people and they can share their stories and struggles with other women, and they feel that sense of belonging in a group, and that they're not alone anymore, or that they're not, you know, outcasts in society, which many of them are made to feel, especially if they have disabilities. So I think they're two, you know, really important points. And I'd love to just ask you, because there's not many people I can ask that saw Seven Women at the very beginning stages, like you. So could you just kind of paint the picture for people listening? What was your kind of sense of it at the beginning? And you know, I know we're operating basically out of a tin shed at that stage.
Yes, it definitely was a tin shed that was hardly standing up. But actually, what I remember more than the buildings, which were pretty basic, but there's a lot in Nepal that's still pretty basic, it was those women that you had there, and the couple of other people who at that time were helping you. And the enthusiasm, the dedication, the interest that they had in what they were doing, that was just outstanding. And I do actually remember walking away that day and thinking, you're going to be able to do this. Like, passion is a very overused word. As a careers counsellor, I cringe when people talk about their passion, because I think when you talk about passion, you actually sensibly have to break it down to what can you actually achieve, where your skills actually are. Is this a sensible thing to be looking at, or are you better to try to utilize your skills in some other way? And I did walk away thinking, Steph, you have those skills. You have the passion and you have the skills and you have the ability to bring people around you. And that's all really important. You know, if you're going to do that type of development work, and you're the professional there, I'm not, I'm a school teacher. But I do think that basically you have to be able to bring a myriad of factors into play at the same time. And it's not just your own passion, it's your ability to find the right people to work with. It's your ability to manage the very small amount of money that you're going to have to play with for almost any project, unfortunately. It's the fact that you've got to be the psychiatrist and the psychologist with those people and with their families, because in Nepal and East Timor and a number of other developing countries, you're still very much dealing not only with that person, you are dealing with a plethora of other people around them. So it takes a lot of stamina, a lot of being prepared to work through the problems and confronting the problems, knowing that there's going to be problems. And that's probably where I thought you had that ability, that professionalism to work through those problems. So yeah, I did think you were going to make it. I can't say I thought there was going to be this great huge house and these cooking classes online and tours and everything, but as it grew, it all became obvious that you could do all those sorts of things too, and you've done them brilliantly. And I'm so pleased that Ivanhoe Girls was taking tours to Nepal before COVID, and I just hope so much that can get going again, because young people need to go to these places. They need to understand not only the conditions, they need to understand who these people are, how they think, what they want, and they need to listen to them.
Thanks, Sue. And I too hope that we can do the tours again, because there was so much magic that happened on those tours. I know that kind of you have been really touched by Nepal, and so have I, and that's what's kind of kept us going back for so many years. But there's something very special about Nepal, and I love seeing that transformation in people, especially young people and school groups that we took there. It's just incredible to see that them have that life experience, the same as I did when I was 19 when I first went to Nepal. It really impacts you at that age and makes you, I suppose, you come back to Australia and you kind of don't sweat the small stuff, and you, through experiencing a different culture over there, they're very kind of relational based culture, I would say, and they value, you know, time with each other. And it's, yeah, there's so many differences, but just to throw yourself in such a different environment and then come back home, you know, it's almost like it rearranges certain things in your life and shows you what the priorities are, or brings you back to what's valuable in life. And I know that many people have been transformed that have been on our tours, but also, you know, been to Nepal in general. And I just want to thank you and honour you as well, Sue, because you made that initial contact with the school. I know I went there in high school, and I went back and spoke at a few Mother's Day luncheons and things, but and I want to hear all about your work in Nepal too. I know that you were working with the lower secondary school students and connecting them up to a village that you were working in, you know, and doing education projects and things, and you invited me to come and share about 7 women at the same time, and that, you know, that planted seeds, which then led to us doing tours with Ivanhoe Girls over to Nepal. So thank you. And yeah, would love to hear about the projects that you were involved in Nepal, and you still, I know you're still connected.
So I started going to Nepal because I was going to take my long service leave, and Andrew and I had always wanted to do some work in developing country, and we're also bushwalkers. So Nepal seemed to be the perfect place, and this is an ad for Nepal, and people who are bushwalkers go, and photographers. It is the most beautiful place. But we went and found a company called Everest Trekking, which was run by a woman called Kath Moltzen, who'd been involved in Nepal for many years and had done many great things. And I walked in and I said, well, I don't know if we're going to be any use. We're a doctor and a teacher, but if you can find anything where we could do a bit of work for a while, that would be great. And she offered a place for Andrew in a hospital, and I thought that's fine, you know, like I'm prepared to sit around for a while and explore Kathmandu or somewhere. And then she said, well, before you go, I just have to ask you, I promised this person she was in contact in Magapora with, I promised him that I would ask somebody if they came in and if they were a teacher, would they go to Magapower village to help him teach English? And I walked away and I thought, well, you know, Andrew would really love to do this hospital work, but you know what? I really want to go to that village. And so we talked about it, and it was 7 hours by bus, Nepalese bus, which for those people who haven't been on Nepalese buses before, you need to make room for the chickens and the goats, and you need to close your eyes a lot on the bus as you go around the hills. So we did get to the village, but I have to say that it took us 5 days from getting to Kathmandu for that 7-hour trip, because there was a petrol strike. There was another, I think it was a bus strike as well, and all sorts of problems. And it actually took us 5 days to do that 7-hour trip. And it meant that we ended up staying with Ferber Lama, who was sort of my contact point in the village, staying with some of his family on the way who were very poor, but they housed us for 5 days until the next bus came. So that was our start of, wow, these people are very special. They have nothing, but you know, they really want to help us. Finally got to the school. I was going to be teaching English to some people who were teachers who were teaching English. So I had a group of teachers, male and female, and I soon very quickly discovered that most of the teachers didn't have much English at all, but the men were not particularly happy that I was there. The women were lapping it up, but the men were not happy. And it basically, after about a day, I was like a teacher feeling fairly frustrated with these men. But the women had decided that they wanted to learn, so they actually took on the men. And it was really interesting because they told me that they'd never done anything like that before. But this was their valuable learning time. And so they told the men to be quiet and listen. So that was great discipline in the classroom. And so I started being involved in the school, going to their lessons, like the ordinary schools in Nepal are so poor. And then after that, we came back to Australia, and I was asked to go to a conference in Nepal to again teach teachers about discipline, because their idea of discipline at that stage was often just carry a stick around with you. And so I went to talk to them about respect, about the fact that to get respect, you have to give respect. So such a common idea to us, but to them it was actually pretty revolutionary. And when I was at that conference, I was there with a guy called Mahabir Pun. So Mahabir Pun is was a teacher, Nepalese, and he had worked out how to get the internet into remote areas in Nepal. And because I was talking at the conference, some of the teachers and the principal from the school I'd been at came to the conference. And they said to me, the teachers and the principal, oh, we really want the internet, because at that stage they had no computers in the school, no internet. there were things like when the kids got their examination results, their state examination results, it took weeks and weeks to actually get that mail to Mega Power. So the kids would have missed the entry for university, and then they lost the impetus. They went back to their farms, they worked on their farms, they decided not to go to uni. There are all sorts of reasons why the internet could be an advantage to them apart from the actual learning for the teachers and the students. So we spoke to Mahabir and he said, well, you have to meet a list of criteria. I have to be able to do it because I have to get across the mountains. So there has to be a way that I can have line of sight from the village to where I can put the next tower. So we went away and the teachers and the principal and a number of us all worked on these problems and eventually drew up a plan, and they took it to Mahabir. And so then Mahabir gave us a costing, and I went back to Ivanhoe Girls and I said, who could help? And so that's when we started to join forces, and you came and talked about 7 women, and I spoke about the internet. And the year 7s were the ones at school who put up their hands, and their coordinator, Narelle Umbers, said, we'll do it. And so the year 7s went and they made cakes, they did everything they could think of. They washed parents' cars. I remember one of them went to her father who had a car washing business and said, well, if I help for the day, can I have the proceeds for the day? That's what I love about Ivanhoe Girls. They think ahead. So, so the girls gathered the money and we went off to Nepal with the money to put in this internet. Now, doing anything in Nepal is not easy, and I'm not even good at computers, so I'm like the last person who should be putting in the internet. But I had people around me who were good at it. So I went to all the meetings with Mahabir Pun where he organised the equipment and everything, and then we had to hire a bus, load all this equipment into the bus and head off for a private bus this time, 7-hour journey. And we got stopped. The roads were too bad. We couldn't go any further. We were about an hour out of Mega Power. And I thought, what do we do now? We have all this heavy equipment. And Verba rang ahead to Mega Power. All the students from the school left school, came and grabbed all this equipment in the villages and basically carried it all the way back, and it was heavy. Then when we got there with all the equipment, we discovered that the principal hadn't actually spoken to his board at school about this yet, although he had been involved in all the discussions. So then the board had to have a meeting, and we were worried that they were going to say, no, we don't want to get involved in this. But at the end of the meeting, they walked out. We were standing there thinking, what are they going to do? And they walked over, they grabbed shovels and they started digging for all the internet to go in. So we spent a couple of weeks trying to get the internet in, and discovered things like where somebody had forgotten to order the pole for the internet, all that. When we got over that, we found a substitute pole. And so when we got the internet going, we said at the school, the girls are going to be the first one to use the internet. So in Nepal, the girls always wait. The girls are always second to the boys. Said, no, the girls' school has provided the money for this. The girls are going to be the first one to use it, except for one boy who'd been helping us a lot, and I made him an exception. So the girls came in, they learnt the basic computers we provided with it and how to use the internet. And then we opened it up to everybody else to come in and have sessions, the girls being the tutors to lead them. And so that worked well. There were a few hiccups as always with technology, but it generally worked okay. So then we went home, and my principal said to me, that worked really well. Let's do another school. So the idea with the internet in Nepal is that you put it in a major school, which then basically is like a training school a PD school for maybe 12 or 13 other schools. And so if the main school has the internet, then they can sort of basically get support out to the other schools, and the other schools can come in and use it. So then Andrew had actually, my husband had been working with a Nepalese nurse, and she'd been very interested, Jamuna, in what we were doing. So I said to her, tell me about your village, you know, would the internet be suitable there? And she said, yes, yes, yes. So I had a dream that somebody would help me, being very Nepalese. And so we set about again. And in the process of putting Sangachok online, we discovered that Jamuna's brother was actually a computer engineer. So that was brilliant. And he got very involved and ended up doing quite a lot of work with Mahabir Pun as well. And so at that stage, we were really taking a back step. Both schools had employed computer teachers, both schools had trained staff to look after the computers. When we started the project, we said we can provide the money for the internet, but we can't provide ongoing costs and maintenance and that. So you have to show us that you could take that over. And so Mahabir Pun did a great thing for the community. We were really just the enablers that provided the facility and the money for them to do it. And yeah, it's made a huge difference to those communities. We stayed in touch with them. We're providing them with a bit of COVID support at the moment. We, like everybody else, provided earthquake relief when the earthquake happened, because we're very small. We don't want to be bigger. My idea is basically we just help people as they need it, and then they move on. But with the earthquake, we realised that one of the things we could do was we could get money straight into people in the community, whereas the big NGOs basically had to go through the government and wait for all that process, and sometimes a little bit get skimmed off. Whereas we could get them going, we could get them food, we could get them some basic housing. So Ferber and Nabeen basically took over in both their communities trying to organise all that. We could keep them going for 3 weeks until the bigger NGOs could get there.
That's quite extraordinary, Sue, that you were able to do that, because, you know, for someone, you said you had no idea about how to set up internet in villages, and just being, you know, operating in Nepal, it's an extraordinary effort, and the fact that it's, you know, continued and everything. And yeah, I had the opportunity to meet some of the people that you work with, Ferber, and he's amazing, and it's incredible. And I think I really admire you and you know, the others that I've met that work in Nepal and have got these extraordinary projects off the ground, because it takes a certain character, I think, and, you know, you're very kind of chilled out and calm, but it takes so much tenacity and grit to, like, you know, stay the distance and make it happen. And all the different people that you have to communicate with, and also, you know, in you sharing in that journey, just all the things that go pear-shaped, or the unforeseen things that pop up. And it also takes someone with a sense of humor that can just go, oh my God, that's hilarious, let's roll with it and adapt and be flexible and all the rest of it. So I really admire the fact that you were able to go through with that project and coordinate, you know, and provide extraordinary opportunities for the high school students here. Like, that's incredible that they were able to get a bit of a sense and a taste for them being part of it, and them, you know, washing cars and fundraising to make a difference.
And then after the internet was put in, we would Skype with Mega Power and between the year 7s and their students. And that was good for our kids, because they got to actually try to teach a little bit of English, really. That was the idea. And the other students, the Nepalese students, found it a little bit harder to necessarily understand the English, but they were all keen to do it. And I mean, that was years ago where Skype was a bit difficult. Now, I'm sure you could probably do all those things better than I did at that stage. But I think I think perhaps one of the interesting stories I can tell about putting the internet in is when we'd set it up, the school created a computer room for it, and then I decided that I would train the teachers in all this basic computing. And as I said, I'm not a computer person. So here am I spending ages working out my lessons, have them all around in a group with their own little computer. And I like turn on the computer, do this, do that. And then I realized that I'm kind of at page 1 on my set of notes, and they're basically at page 8. Like they all caught on so quickly, the staff and the students. So, here are we thinking, oh, well, we're the ones who somehow have this knowledge and they don't. But given the opportunity, they have it equally as well. And so just like in any normal classroom, I was saying, hold on, don't do that one yet. I haven't done this. So it was actually quite funny trying to teach them because, it was pretty clear within a couple of days, they didn't really need me very much there after all. And then they were helping each other and putting together PowerPoints and everything. And so, yeah, so they use it a lot now.
Amazing. And I just want to go back to something that you said at the start around, it was about kind of how much we get from actually engaging with these people and how much they have to offer. And I know that my life's been so enriched by creating 7 Women and taking the journey to Nepal and so many, after that. And I'm sure yours has too, and that you've enriched so many lives over there. And it's just this incredible kind of connection and exchange across cultures and countries. And I suppose that's the thrill that I got in creating tours for others to go and experience a similar thing, because it's just priceless. I think that lived experience where you can immerse yourself and live and experience a completely different culture and peoples. And I know the Nepalese are very warm and very hospitable, as you said. Like they had barely anything and they housed you for 5 days in their village, and
Yeah.
what that means to us, coming from a country like this and seeing what they don't have materially, but actually their social networks are very rich, and they have so many other things that are super rich that we can learn from and take back with us back to Australia.
Yeah, I think that's something that's actually really important for everybody. I mean, Nepal's a good place to start, like that sort of widening your own understanding of the world and appreciation of other people. And I think it led me to wanting to do that even further. So we got involved in some work in East Timor, and I got involved in a program at Melbourne University, which is basically mentoring in some ways Australia Award students, postgraduate students who are studying. And so we actually did have a Nepalese student for a couple of years who you just keep an eye on them, how they're going. Often they're here with their families, give them a little bit of academic support if they need it. And I had a wonderful girl from Vietnam, and guy from East Timor, and a girl from Cambodia, and I keep in touch with them still. In fact, I was just on a Zoom with Vikra from Cambodia this week because, well, she's actually just had COVID, and also she's trying to get to Australia eventually to do a PhD. And those people, they're doing amazing stuff for their countries now. So, I feel like I get very touched by these people, like Ferber. His story is that basically he stayed in his country, and when all his friends started to go overseas to live, because he wanted to help, he's given up a lot to do that. So you feel like, you want to support somebody who's made decisions like that. Nabeen from Sangochok is the same. Jamuna, his sister, is in Australia now, but she came here on an Australia Award, and she has just done a huge amount for her country. And particularly for Nepalese women, that's her particular interest, and for girls in schools. So she has a scholarship program for Nepalese girls that I try to support as well. So, these are the people that I admire. I feel like, well, how can I not try to support people like you?
Incredible. Thanks, Sue, for sharing your journey, because it's I don't think I've ever heard it in detail from start to finish like that. So that's it's really inspiring. And yes, thank you for being the enabler that you are, because I've seen you in action in Nepal and also just supporting me. I will always appreciate and remember those that supported us, at different stages of the journey, and you've definitely been one of those. So I'd like to say a massive thank you. And before we kind of end, is there anything you'd like to share that I haven't covered or haven't asked about?
I suppose what I'd like to say to anybody who does happen to listen is, like, I'm a very small person, and Steph knows that means literally I'm less than 5 foot, but I'm a very small person in what I do. But, it has made a difference to a number of people individually and on a bigger scale. And I think often people feel, well, what can I do? What does it matter? I'm not going to change the world, but we do have power, and living in developing countries, we have enormous power. So, use that power. It doesn't have to be to help people in developing countries. It could be to do something to support climate action. That's really important too. There's lots of things that are really important. So be small, but act tall. And the other thing, I suppose, is I've talked about all the people I admire, but I actually have one literary character that I love too, and that's Hercule Poirot, because he says, use the little grey cells. And I think whatever you do in life, one of the things is that we have had the advantage of great education, and that gives us the ability to use the little grey cells in whatever we do, however we do it. And that doesn't mean you have to be an A student at school. Far from it. The ability to do things in life is not necessarily an academic ability. Sometimes it can help, but there's lots of people who do well in life without high academic ability. It's using the little grey cells in whatever you do. Think them through, plan, replan. At the end, you're still going to have to take a leap of faith. But at least you know that when you take that leap of faith, and there might be problems, it'll always be a different problem from what you thought there would be, but you'll have some hope of coping with it.
Amazing. Thank you for those words of wisdom. Thanks a million, Sue, and thanks for your time again.
It's been great. It's been lovely to catch up again, Steph. And yeah, I mean, you younger women, you're the real heroes of the world.
Thanks for listening to our Inspiring Humans podcast, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any inspiring human in mind that you would like to nominate, please reach out and let us know. Also, you're very welcome to become part of our Facebook group called Inspiring Humans, where you can connect with incredible people from around the globe. Thirdly, if you are interested in being part of a global network, we have an incredible community at 7continentscouncil.com, where we hold events, programs, and many different initiatives that you can be involved in. Thank you, and see you again soon.